through the week now.
You know, from your lips to God's ears, I hope that to be true for the rest of the week, based on what I know that we have to do. All right, awesome. So we are now live on Facebook. So let's see, let me hit this record button. Perfect. So we are live on Facebook. We are live with our group here on Zoom. If you're on Facebook and you want to join us in the Zoom, please do. Oh, I haven't seen so many of the names popping in. I haven't seen Maurice in forever, y'all. But so glad to see all of you this afternoon. We are closing out this topic today and moving into a new topic next month. But for some of the new names that I see, let me just take a moment to introduce myself. I am Magalie Asynth. I am the Executive Director for Hustle Winston-Salem, which is a nonprofit that is focused on inclusive entrepreneurship. We provide this program, Marketing Outside the Box, in partnership with the Foresight Tech Small Business Center weekly. In person, we also do it in partnership with the Flywheel co-working space located here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So when COVID allows us to be back in person, we will figure out the hybrid way to do that. We do this program particularly because we surveyed, interestingly enough, we surveyed a few years ago entrepreneurs in our community to find the greatest need, and marketing was the response. And, you know, we haven't done a survey, but I've been watching other surveys. I actually spoke to another entrepreneurial resource center in Greensboro earlier this week and asked them what's their entrepreneurs' greatest needs. And sure enough, marketing is still the answer. So while that continues to be a big need, we'll continue to do marketing outside the box. And our desire and hope is that you all take this information and actually put it into your business so that you're not wasting your time and we're not wasting your time. So with that, just for those that are new with us, the way we run marketing outside the box, typically we have a topic for the entire month. And each week we give you a little bit of insight into that topic. So hopefully by the end of the month, you have the full idea or the full concept that we want you to get around that particular topic for that month. So this month we have been focused on marketing and money and budgeting and things of that nature. And you'll hear a little bit from Tony wrapping up that topic. So let's see, anything else I need to share? Oh yes, please use the chat feature for those that are in the Zoom. Introduce yourself, tell us about your business, especially if this is your first time here. For those on Facebook, please use the comment section. Tell us who you are, tell us about yourself, ask your questions there, and we'll try to get to them if the time allows. So with that said, most of you, I think, receive our newsletter. If you don't, please make sure that we get you connected to it. But in our newsletter today, we shared some new information, particularly since we're talking about money and marketing. Talk about money, I should say. We shared some information, particularly around an investment summit that we'll be doing next month called the Inclusive Investment Summit. So definitely, if that's something of interest to you, we want you to register when we open up registrations next week and plan to be in attendance so that you can learn some valuable information as well as connect to figure out how you can get your business to the next level. Additionally, you'll hear us talk a little bit about grants and things of that nature today, but really want to stress to you all the importance of making sure you scroll down through our newsletter, because as we talk about marketing and money, we always provide funding resources for small businesses. So you want to make sure that you are clicking on that, you are clicking on our newsletter and scrolling down and checking out those resources, okay? All right, with that said, let's jump into the topic. Again, good afternoon, everyone. Let me share my screen. You may remember Tony and I are tag teaming today's presentation. So I will first hand it over to Tony to get us started, and you'll hear from me again in a little bit.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to see some returning faces and names also. Some people I haven't seen in a while, as Magalie had said. So today we are talking about funding and hiring, more money, more hires. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, me, you need me. Okay.
All right, so how it's going to work today is Magley's going to talk about the how and the what of marketing, grants, loans, and crowdfunding for your businesses. And I am going to break down your ability to get marketing assistance when financing allows it. So right before Magley gets started, I just want to do a quick recap of what we've already covered, okay? And we can sum it up into these three groups of organization, allocating, and assessment. When you're organizing, you're collecting information, we're analyzing previous finances, and we're establishing goals. All of those things will help us go to the second phase, which is allocating. We are planning where every dollar is going to go, and then we are actually executing that plan. As I discussed last week, I believe, life happens. Adjustments need to be made. So make sure that the plan is flexible, but we are still executing the plan. And then finally, we are doing an assessment. We're dissecting and calculating and determining if our marketing efforts have been successful. And again, hopefully what we all know is that success looks different for all of us because we are all entrepreneurs and our journey is different. So you're assessing if your efforts have been successful, and then what your return on investment has been from those efforts. So I'm going to turn it over to Magali so she can tell you guys about funding opportunities.
Are you muted? Am I back? Can y'all hear me? Am I back? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, y'all. Anytime Tony and I are presenting in the same room, I kind of get confused with sound, and I don't want all of y'all to get that feedback. So thank you so much for that recap. For those that have not joined us over the last two sessions, please know that we will be providing the presentation as well as any additional information that we've already shared, so that you'll have that to your disposal along with the recordings to follow up with everything Tony just shared with you. Moving into today's focus, first we're going to talk a little bit about ways to fund your business. We've already discussed budgeting and all of those things during week one and everything that Tony just shared with you. But now let's talk about other ways for you to get money for your business. And one of the first things that for your business as it relates to marketing, one of the first things that I think we hear a lot when we're talking to business owners and entrepreneurs, especially small business owners, is, does money exist for my business marketing needs? And the answer is, without a shadow of a doubt, absolutely, positively, yes, it does. Okay. The ironic thing about seeking marketing funding is that you have to market your organization or your business in order to get the funds. So you can do this with a number of different type of entities, from private and community foundations to corporations, state, local, and federal government, and other funding sources like banks and crowdfunding. So Tony mentioned to you a little bit that I'll talk about crowdfunding, a huge focus on crowdfunding and grants today. Mention a little bit about loans. I won't get too much into the other forms, but we're definitely available to explore those other forms, but those are going to be the three primary forms you hear me run through today with you and focus on a bit, okay? So where are we? So crowdfunding is what I want to discuss first. Crowdfunding, for the most part, is a very, well, first let me kind of see if by show of hands, for those who I can see your camera, or you can use the feature here to raise your hand. How many of you are familiar with the concept of crowdfunding? Did my screen just stop sharing for y'all? 1 second. 1 second. I'm not quite sure why that happened, but it notified me that it happened. Let's see. One moment, I apologize. All right. One second, we're getting back there. Are we back? All right, perfect. So Tony told me Jacqueline raised her hands. I think what my screen is doing now is I can't see y'all anymore, and that's why it went away. So Tony will keep me posted. But so you all are familiar with the concept of crowdfunding, right? I saw a few hands go up. If you're not, the idea of crowdfunding is literally there are sites that exist where you can raise funds from the world, for lack of a better term. You can raise funds for business purposes, all of the things. And we'll talk a little bit about that process if you're not familiar with it and how it makes sense for your marketing and business needs. So believe it or not, again, the internet is full of people eager to support new concepts and products and growth of small businesses. Marketing is one of the best ways to grow your businesses. Marketing and sales is what gets you there, right? So the possibilities are wide open on your creativity of how you use the option of crowdfunding to raise money for you could do it for other business needs. It gets a little tricky, but definitely you can use it for your marketing needs. I've seen small businesses use crowdfunding to raise money for things like getting new equipment, hiring employees, which you'll hear a little bit about later from Tony, purchasing real estate, believe it or not, launching a new product or a campaign, but specifically launching a marketing campaign. That is what I've seen most small businesses that use crowdfunding as a form of as a way to get money for their marketing needs. I've seen them launch a marketing campaign through platforms that allow you to do that, okay? And I don't know why the platform's names all escape me now, but they'll come to me. Huh? Kickstarter, that's not the one I was thinking about, but Kickstarter, and there are a few others, they'll come to me. But the main thing you want to do is think of your crowdfunding opportunity as a pitch deck. I don't know how many of you have a pitch deck for your business. If not, we need next month, we're talking about PR and they'll cover that just a little bit. But if you don't have if you do have a pitch deck for your business, then you understand the concept of what I'm saying. Think of crowdfunding as a pitch deck. You need to be able to sell your business to the world, to the public, to the audience, to say, why should I give you my money for you to market your business, right? So it will benefit you and pay greatly to you to think carefully about your target backer demographic. And target backer is just the people giving you the money. Something I want you to know about crowdfunding that's really important is that everyone isn't as involved in the crowdfunding process. Millennials tend to be the biggest backer of crowdfunding projects. This is important for you to know if you decide to go into crowdfunding, because that means you need to cater your campaign, your crowdfunding campaign, to millennials. So you would want to think about, what is it that millennials care about? You know, I'm not going to go too detailed into what millennials care about in this meeting, but I will implore you, we have a previous Marketing Outside the Box, maybe 2 years ago now. Wow. From maybe 2 years ago, where we focused on generations, and millennials was one of those. And you can go through that and think about how you market to millennials. Okay, that can be very helpful for you. If you have problems finding it on our Facebook page, just reach out to us and we'll get that link to you. But millennials tend to be the number one backers of any crowdfunding project. So you're going to want to cater your marketing needs in that pitch deck on these platforms to that audience. You could try to cater it to other audiences. I'm not saying that's not an option, but you're going to want to ask yourself, is my audience on that platform? So I want to be clear about something. So let's just say your audience are mothers 45 and above, right? Whatever your business is, let's just say that's your primary audience. That's not millennials, right? Correct? However, so I'm not saying you shouldn't use crowdfunding. What I'm saying is you need to create a campaign or a pitch deck or something on these crowdfunding platforms that millennials can understand, that's letting them know it will benefit those people. But your presentation of your crowdfund shouldn't be thinking necessarily about your audience or your target customer. You're thinking about your target backer, okay? You're thinking about who's likely to give me money on this platform for little to nothing. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about what you would give in exchange. Okay. So I wanted to make that clear about your target audience when you're thinking about crowdfunding. So that's what you're doing when you're considering your ask. You're considering your target. The next thing is you want to consider your reward. So when we're thinking about crowdfunding, there is a give and take. It's not equity there, although equity is an option on crowdfunding. That's not what we're talking about today. It's not equity funding. It's not any of that. You're talking about giving people a reward for providing you with money to support whatever your business needs. In this case, we're talking about marketing. And rewards aren't limited to companies that only have products. So you don't have to think, oh, I don't have a product, I don't have something free that I can give them. What I suggest in marketing, you might want to consider rewards that are outward facing. For example, you can say, let's just say someone decides to invest $100 in your business to go towards your marketing efforts or whatever your campaign is focused on for marketing. The reward for $100 could be you're going to highlight them on your social media platforms. That's it. You don't need to send them anything, whatever. You could have it if they give 250, your reward is that social media and a personal thank you note. You know what I mean? Like whatever. You don't have to stress yourself. You don't have to add more things to your budget, things of that nature. Although you can add more things to your budget, which will increase the number that you're asking for from crowdfunding platforms. Okay. And my advice also is in order to get a sense of what can work and how far you can kind of stretch your limits when it comes to crowdfunding and what you're asking people to give and what you're giving back, search these platforms, these crowdfunding platforms. Again, I don't know why the names escape me, but anyways, yes, GoFundMe is what I was trying to remember. Yeah, GoFundMe, Indiegogo, all of those things. I don't know, y'all. I'm sorry, but these platforms, search these different platforms, look for businesses similar to you, and see what they're asking. See what they're promoting, even if it's not for marketing, whatever. If they're asking people to donate to help them get a new desk in their office or something, right? Whatever the case may be, just kind of see what they're offering as their rewards to kind of give you an idea of things that you can offer as a reward. So you're not going too far, but you're not undercutting your donors, the people that back you. Okay. So just think about that. So that's considering your reward, and that's the concept of reward-based crowdfunding. There are two other forms of crowdfunding that's not on this. I'm not going to talk about that in this session because it doesn't fit into the marketing realm. Those are for other forms of raising funds. If you're interested in learning about that, we can talk about it later, but it doesn't fit into crowdfunding for marketing purposes. The other way that you can do crowdfunding for marketing purposes is donation-based. Now, can you, as a for-profit business, if you're a nonprofit, then go ahead and do it. And just same concepts I just said to you about rewards, think about all that. If you're a for-profit and you're on these platforms and you're doing donation-based crowdfunding, let me say this. You can attempt to do it. It probably won't be as successful because donation-based for-profits kind of, you will have to have a very strong social responsibility purpose tied to asking people for donations, because you can't offer them, a tax exempt or things of that nature. But there is what I think a workaround to it, and that's for your for-profit to partner with the nonprofit, a registered nonprofit. For you can still run the crowdfund, but there needs to be a benefit to the nonprofit. There needs to be, if you donate towards this cause, whatever the purpose of your business is. Again, let's just say your business is, I don't know, somebody tell me one of your businesses, I don't know, but let's just say your business is, you make hemp juice. I'm making up stuff. Let's just say you make hemp juice and that's your business. You would want to find a way to make sense to say, we would be donating hemp juice to this nonprofit. if you support our marketing efforts to sell this hemp juice, whatever the case may be. Again, that probably was a terrible example, but hopefully you get the concept and you get the idea of partnering with a nonprofit to still do the donation-based one. And it's important for me to share the donation-based one with you, because on these crowdfunding platforms, I've recognized that that's where people, again, that millennial group, they're giving a lot, as long as they support the reason behind it. So I want you to really consider that option as a way to raise funds. And in most cases, the tax exempt letter that they're going to receive is typically enough, but you still want to consider some rewards if it makes sense. Okay. So let's talk quickly a little bit about grants. I'm trying to get through this so we can get to Tony. Let's talk quickly so we can get to grants. Here's the thing. There are a number of grant opportunities. In the next two slides, I'm going to quickly kind of run over a few do's and don'ts that you do with grant applications. But please understand, there are grant opportunities for you and your business. There are some that are specific to marketing for your business, and there are some that are specific to just business needs, and you can allocate it to marketing. But this is where a lot of businesses, for-profit businesses, make the mistake on these grant applications when they are available. A lot of these applications will not directly ask you for stats or data. But what makes your for-profit business, and especially if you're a nonprofit, but what makes your application stand out is including statistics and data. These statistics and data can be about your industry, about your business itself, about the reason you're requesting the funding. You can say, let's just assume you are a woman-owned business, and you can start talking about, you could provide some data around, women-owned businesses tend to have less funding for XYZ reason, or whatever the case may be. You just want to make sure you include the statistics. You help that funder understand, why should I give this person this money? Why should I give this company this money? And you got to remember, you're competing with a whole lot of people. So the very first thing, you want to make sure that in that application, even if it does not directly ask you for it, you include it somewhere in statistics and data. Okay. The next thing is, you want to provide in any grant application a timeline for completing whatever the reason you requested the money for. In this case, we're talking about marketing purposes, right? So in this case, let's just say you need a $25,000 grant so that you can execute a marketing campaign that will help you grow and build your business. And let's just say you gave yourself a 9-month window to use that $25,000. You need to say, this is what month 1 will look like. This is what month 2 will look like, all the way to month 9. And even after the fact, because with grants, there's typically a lot of follow-up, not all the time, but typically you have to give some form of report after you use the money. You can even say months 10, 11, and 12 is dedicated to me creating the report that's going to come back to you. But the big message you want to get here is, give it to them in advance. This is a timeline for what I want to do. Fret not though, because most grantors, if you receive a grant, understand that you're not tying yourself to that timeline. They understand that you might have to make some changes and pivot and things of that nature, even as a for-profit business, especially as a for-profit business, actually. So you want to think about that. And then quickly, every grant application you request, you need to outline that budget. I would say this is a question every grant application will ask anyways, but you need to be prepared before you even sit down and do that grant application. You already have your budget, which is why we started the series off with the budget. Tony went over that budget. So that's really important for you to understand, creating that marketing budget to put into the request. There are a lot of other things that needs to be in grant, but these 3 areas are your must. If you don't do anything else when you submit a grant application, whether it's an organization a foundation in your community that put out, hey, there's a grant, or if it's that you're submitting something to the federal government or local government, and all you're doing is putting in a cover letter and some details, this is the must-have. This is the must-have that you put into it. So quickly here, I want to give you some quick do's and some quick don'ts when you think about grant applications in these cases. Do number 1, keep it short. Keep it short. Grant applications is not the time to give us your 10-page dissertation as to why you need this money, especially in the world of marketing. You all should know this by now. Keep it short, get to the point, let them know what you need this money for, what's going on in your industry, how you plan to use the money. Do number 2, say what you need. I just talked about putting that budget in the grant application, but you won't believe how many times we would ask, I'm not a grant funders, but how many times folks would ask for a budget and we keep it too simple from the number side. We'll say social media, $750, paid ads, $500. Like we keep it, no. You can have a category, say what you need, digital campaign, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Social media, you can have your section overall. If the overall is $750, right up under that, marketing of that Instagram of that $750 is going to be $225. Facebook of that $750 is going to be whatever. Like you need to say what you need so that they understand, oh, this business got a plan. This business understands, okay? Avoid repeating yourself when you're doing these grant applications. Now, I know that's kind of hard sometimes because sometimes you feel like you're reading a grant application and they're asking you the same thing over and over. In that case, you want to reach out to the organization that's offering the grant opportunity for you and get clarity on the question, because I can guarantee you they're asking you to repeat yourself, okay? And a lot of us fail and we repeat ourselves. We try to make it fancy with some new words, and realistically, that's the reason you're not going to get that marketing grant for your business. Make a connection as to what's happening in the world and how you plan to make your marketing reflect that. So most times especially if it's coming from a foundation, now if we're talking about corporations that are providing this marketing grant, they won't so much as need the social good tied to it. But if you're talking about foundations, typically you have to make a connection to the real world as far as you want to do a marketing campaign that highlights, let's just say that highlights the purpose of education, or what, I don't know, that was probably a dumb thing to say, but you all know what I mean, like something regarding education. Let's just say you run a school and you need them to understand you need marketing money to be able to market your school, but you're making the connection of how that marketing will directly impact the students, the parents, etc. So you want to make that connection as to why you should be getting money specifically for marketing based on what your business is and what your business does, okay? When I say include the resources, any methods that you're going to use to execute your marketing, you want to include that. So if you're going to use Canva, list that. Like you're going to be using a software like Canva. If you're going to be contracting someone to help you understand how to execute the marketing for your small business, mention what that company that you hope to use is, whatever. Include all of those resources that you intend to use so they also understand, okay, I can see that they really are going to use this money. And then the last thing that you want to make sure that you do is don't assume that these funders know your company. Don't assume they know your business. Don't assume they know your organization. Make sure you let them know your mission, your vision, why you exist. No matter what type of business you are, you should have that already. You should have your mission, your vision, why you exist, right? So make sure you put that somewhere in the application if they don't directly ask for it already. There's probably 50,000 more dues I can go through, but these are the areas I'm going to focus on. Again, I'm rushing because I want to get Tony to her piece and not get to 1:30 because y'all know I talk a lot. Okay, two quick don'ts. When you're filling out grant applications, don't get too emotional. Most times, it sounds like you think you should in order for the funder to connect to you. But when you're talking about needing money for marketing, for your business, we don't need to hear a heartfelt story, or they don't need to hear a heartfelt story. Tell them why you need this money, okay? Most times, I tell you when you're marketing, you do want to get your emotions in, or you want to appeal to folks' emotions. When you're doing a marketing grant, don't do it. Get to the point. Tell them what you need this money for, how you plan to use the money, okay? Use all that emotion into your actual marketing campaign, okay? Don't mention your competition. Businesses tend to do this. They tend to say, you know, I'm a minority-led business, so I need it because XYZ white-led business gets whatever, right? Like, no. If you want to focus on the fact that you're a minority-led business, say that and explain why it's important for you as a minority-led business to get some of this grant funding. No need to say because XYZ company. Like, do not mention your competition in these grant applications. That's a sure way to make sure you don't get the funding. And then don't address the funder personally. So don't, like, even if you know this person, a lot of times grants are offered in our communities by people we know. Even if you know the person, do not address the funder directly in a grant application. You can address the entity, you know, that's providing the funding. So if it's the Winston-Salem Foundation, for example, or KBR, KB Reynolds Foundation, you can say that. You can say their name, but you wouldn't say, and I'm making up a name of someone at both entities, but you wouldn't say, you know, Tiffany, thank you so much for this opportunity. No. Keep it professional, you know, so just make sure you don't do that in these grant applications. Now, I will say one exception that I know of is one of our larger grant funders in the state to help businesses, which is NC IDEA. In most of their applications, the very last question they ask is, do you know anyone, or did anyone at our organization let you know about this grant opportunity? And they ask you for a name at that point. In that case, that's an exception. You would put the name of whomever it is that you may know. But throughout the grant application, you're not mentioning, oh, I spoke with so-and-so and, you know, he or she told me blah, 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 blah. Do not do it, okay? Let's see. I'm not gonna go through this example in detail, but when you receive this presentation, this is linked. This image here is linked to a marketing grant. And this is one of the marketing grants that you can get up to $50,000. And this one in particular is one of those that do want you to have social good tied to your business and your cause. If you are a nonprofit, you can probably apply very easily to this grant. So definitely when you get this presentation, you can just click on this image, and I'll probably link these words. I'll probably go back and link these words, marketing grant example as well, so that you can easily get to see, you know, this one and how it works, so that you have an idea and see exactly what I was just talking about through that. Quickly, as we think about marketing loans, if funding for marketing is kind of a headache for you and you don't want to deal with, you know, writing a grant and then waiting on the grant response, or if you don't want to really go the crowdfunding route that I talked about, I want you to consider a small business loan. Notice I didn't say marketing loan, I said small business loan, although marketing loans exist. The reason I said small business loan is most small business loans, you can definitely use whatever funding you get strictly for your marketing purposes, if that's what you choose to do. Now, when you think about these loans, to increase your chances of securing a loan, these are the things that you want to make sure you have. Your business plan, number one, your expense sheet, and your financial projections for the next 5 years. I'm not the biggest fan of the loans route, but I'm telling you, these are the things you're going to need, even as a small business. The business plan, expense sheet, financial projections for the next 5 years. Don't even bother going for a marketing loan, or a business loan if you don't have those things. Have that ready before you do anything. Once you have that, you can head to the bank, or you can head to a credit union. I guarantee you they're going to ask you for this, and make your request. What I will say is, I said to you, business plan, grants, crowdfunding, things of that nature. Typically, that's not a requirement that you need that. For marketing loans, you're going to need that no matter who your lender is. They want to see your full business plan, okay? This is the millennial in me. I'm not the biggest fan of business plans, but I understand that they are important and necessary, especially if you're going this route to try to fund your business, especially from the marketing side. Okay. So just make sure you have that ready and prepared. And this is just quickly an example of, this isn't a bank, but this is just an example of, here in our community, an opportunity for you to get a loan for your business to use for business needs, in this case, particularly marketing. So this is one of our partners that we talked about, the Foresight Tech Small Business Center. This date has passed, but I just wanted you to see the example of these loans that do exist. And this is an example of a forgivable loan. Throughout our community, particularly, there's opportunities for you to get 0% loans for marketing or for business purposes in general, things of that nature. So I just wanted you to know these things exist. And when you receive this is linked, although this date has passed, this is linked for you to see and understand your options. So when these things reopen and things of that nature, okay? And then finally, when you receive this presentation, Tony, I only left you 22 minutes. Finally, when you receive this presentation, when you click here, you'll be able to click down here. When you click, I don't know if you all see where I'm clicking, but actually when you click down here, you'll be able to access a list of different types of funding sources. Some of them I talked about today and others I did not, but these range from 125K SBA business grant that you can use. There's examples of marketing grants that popped up since the coronavirus has been a thing here. You'll see some federal small business grants, et cetera. You'll find a link to Grant Watch. I don't know if you're familiar with Grant Watch, but Grant Watch has a lot of grant opportunities for for-profit small businesses. So you'll have access to see all of those grants and apply to the ones that you qualify for. And if your business is a nonprofit, you'll also see on this list access to some of our local grant opportunities through places like the Winston-Salem Foundation. They offer a small grant at $1,000. And you could use that for marketing purposes for your small business. You know, the Black Philanthropy Initiative, they offer a capacity grant. No, Winston-Salem Foundation offers that. The Black Philanthropy Initiative offers an impact grant. But this is all under the Winston-Salem Foundation umbrella for you to be able to use these funding for your business purposes. And that's only if you're a nonprofit in that category. That one is not for for-profits. But for-profits locally, you can look to groups like the Greater Winston-Salem. They just did a small business grant. They do it every year. This is the second year they've done it. So they have small business grant opportunities for you. I think I mentioned NC Idea earlier. They have grant opportunities. I talked a little bit earlier this afternoon about the Hustle newsletter, always having access for you to have that. And one thing that also is going to be included in this list is the Foresight Tech Small Business Center. If you're not comfortable writing grants, but you find a lot of grants when you receive this list that are beneficial to you, the Foresight Tech Small Business Center actually offers a grant writing class for free for you so that you can get comfortable with writing grants. Actually, the class is going on right now, so you might have to wait until the next cycle, or you can just jump in and join them when they're going. But the class, not right now at this moment, but I think they have about 3 weeks left. It's happening now. So there are resources available to you. And I know I sped through all of that. You'll get this presentation, you'll get the links. And if you have follow-up questions when you go through it to get that money, you just reach out to us. Okay, Tony, you have 2 minutes. I'm sorry. Okay, I will check the chat in a second. But Tony, you can take it over.
Can everybody hear me? We're good? Okay. So, I hear an echo. Is that me? Okay. So now we're going to talk about now that Megley has given you all the resources to get funding, and then we already had our budget from the previous weeks, you might have a desire to hire. So let's move into that. So I first want to start with a quote, and that is, "If you can hire tough, you can manage easy." I wanted to put this first before we talked about anything else, because to me, and you guys put in the chat how you guys interpret this quote. But to me, this is how we should live life, okay? Not just business. But if you do pretty much the work in the front end, right, and you're very specific and particular about who you hire, who you hire, it can make life easier for you. It can help you get things done. You're not worried about, making sure the person's on their job because you already had that specification when you hired them, and they already know what they're doing. They're an independent worker. You don't have to be on them all the time. Okay, so
give me a second.
Hire tough. You're good. What did it say? Hire tough so you can manage easy. There it goes. And the next slide, which we'll get into, Maglie will pull it up, but we'll get into it, is what and why. And it's about being specific about what you're hiring for, okay? We don't want to just be like, I need an intern, I need a marketing assistant. That's not specific enough, okay? What kind of tasks do you need off your plate? What kind of specialty do you want that you don't have time to learn, or you don't have the time to implement, and it's time to put somebody in there, into that position?
I'm sorry, Thomas, just a second.
You're good. Then it will jump into the why, and why is it time for you to hire somebody, okay? When you talk about what you need, why do you need that? For everybody on this call, hopefully the two things that we can all agree on is growth, okay, and sustainability. We want to grow our business in some type of capacity, and then we want our business to be sustainable. We want it to, and not on just our business, ourselves as well, okay? We want ourselves to be able to rest. We want to have our business kind of not necessarily run on its own, but not need us in every single detail of our business. Okay, we need to move with purpose.
Is this the right slide?
Yeah. So why am I ready to hire? I want you guys to answer that question. And then what does hiring allow me to do? This can be on a personal level, this can be on a business level, this could be specifically in the level that you're hiring for, this instance being marketing. Okay. Next slide. So before we get into your options, 2 areas that you would hire for, right? Directly related to the what question from the previous slide is a specialist and a journalist. Okay, are you looking for somebody to reach a specific goal, to do a specific thing, to be an expert in this area that you want? Or are you looking for a generalist, somebody that can take the basic marketing things off your plate, such as engaging on your social media, starting the newsletter, and then you just have to proof it, things like that? Are you looking for something just to do general marketing tasks, like literal assistance? Okay, so you need to answer that question as well. So your options, I broke it down to 4 options. I'm sure there could be more, but I think this covers everybody and actually is kind of redundant. So the first one is an intern, and we all know what an intern is. It's a student or a trainee who works, sometimes without pay, at a trade or an occupation in order to gain work experience, okay? Marketing firm is a company that was formed to target a specific business concern or area. An independent contractor is a business, a person, or a corporation that provides goods or services under a written contract, verbal agreement. And then an employee is a person employed for wages and salaries, especially on the non-executive level, okay? We're gonna jump into each detail starting now. The first one being a marketing intern. So usually, I mean, we know, like, they're usually college students. They are trying to get into the workforce if they're not already, and they're looking for, like the previous slide said, they're looking for experience. They're looking for a learning opportunity. They should be usually given, unless they can pitch to you and you believe in them, they should usually be given general marketing tasks. Okay, these are the people that can take over your social media engagement, can start that newsletter, can get you possibly hip to new things that can bring innovation to your marketing efforts. Average pay is $0 to $17 per hour. Okay, it's about what you can afford. Moving on to the next slide, it's also about what you can offer them. Okay, this specifically, your relationship with interns should be mutually beneficial. Okay, like I said, they're looking for career opportunities. If they're not looking to work in your business for a longer term, and this is just kind of like a beginning phase for them, they're looking for learning experiences. They're looking for connections, career connections. And possibly they could be looking for a mentor. They see themselves in you, or they see something that you can teach them. Okay, but this relationship needs to be, I give you something and you give me something, especially if you're not or are not able to pay them. Next would be, what's the time? Okay. Next would be a marketing firm. All right, so a marketing firm are usually very specific on certain things, and they help clients create and implement a marketing strategy, a campaign, just depending on what kind of marketing firm you're looking to hire. They can offer you consulting services, they can do direct marketing, they can do telemarketing, they can do digital marketing, and they can do marketing communications. Okay, usually a lot of them that you see on the internet are digital marketing. They're offering how you can get better on social media, Google ads, all of the things. The underline, anything you see underlined in these slides are hyperlinked, okay? So roughly, I want to always give you a salary, roughly $200 to $3,000 per month, depending on what you hire them for, okay, what the project looks like, and then also their experience. Usually the more experience you get, the higher the price is going to be. Next would be an independent contractor, okay? And I'm specifically in here talking about somebody like myself, somebody like just individual people who happen to be offering a service, marketing service. So it's a simple, easy avenue, usually, if you hire a professional, to execute specific marketing efforts. They specialize in a certain area, usually. They can help you grow your email list. They can help you put on an event or market that event that you're putting on. They have some specialty. And then should be able to do the job separate from your business. This is like law, okay? If you have to provide them with a computer, you have to provide them with anything other than financials to do their job, the IRS could possibly say that that is an employee, okay? So then it just depends on, again, what project you're hiring them for, how long that project lasts, and then their individual prices. So this is something I did not put any type of price to it, because it really just depends on what you need and who you hire. Because it could be something as low as $50, just depending on what you need. It could be something as high as $10,000, again, depending on what you need. And finally, we have the company employee, okay? So I just put the positives in there. There can be some downsides that we'll talk about in a second, but positives, you have a paid, because you're paying them, paid dedication to the company's marketing, okay? They want the marketing to succeed or else they out of a job, you know? Deep understanding of the company's mission and story. I think that's very important, especially when it comes to marketing efforts and sustainable evergreen marketing efforts, things that can go on forever. Those usually are created by educated employees that know how to do their job, that understand the company's mission and story, okay? They can be part-time. You could hire somebody for $12,000 annually, right? Up to $250,000 annually. Again, it depends on what you need and how often you work. If it's part-time, full-time, you also have to include benefits. That is the downside to hiring employees. There's other costs than just their salary that you have to now budget for, okay? Okay.
I want to add to that before we move on to the next slide, Tony, that because most of you all are small business owners, that $12,000 to $250,000 range probably is not realistic, especially the higher we get towards the $250,000 range. So the reality is you're probably looking at $12,000 in some cases, maybe less, when you're thinking about bringing someone onto your team, specifically for marketing purposes. The other thing, so I just wanted to put that in perspective. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out is specifically about what Tony just mentioned for the benefits. So you could, especially as a small business, you could bring on an employee, especially if they are right below part-time or are part-time, and not have to offer benefits. I'm not a proponent of it, I get it, but as small businesses, we're not always set up to provide that. So I just wanted to put that in perspective so you don't think you can't bring on a marketing employee without having those things in place, because you definitely can. So again, I just wanted to interrupt Tony real quick to say that.
Okay, yes. But like I said, there is additional costs. If you hire an employee part-time or full-time, absolutely, but there is additional costs and laws that you need to know about going this route. Oh, next slide. Girl, I keep on pressing back here. So how to find your person. For interns specifically, look at college and universities, obviously. Get in contact with the university's college of business college. They usually have their interns, that's where the marketing students are housed. And then, you know, the professors and whatnot can help you direct you towards interns. Also, you should form a relationship with the career service office. Okay, those are also people that are there on campus to help students find interns, to help students find jobs at the entry level. There we go. Another way to find interns, I would say, is LinkedIn. Just because I don't know about every single college, but my college, both the colleges I attended, they pushed LinkedIn heavily, especially when it comes to networking and finding people that like write the checks, finding the people that make the decisions when it. Colleges. Okay, yes, Magley's telling me colleges still do that. The recruiters are always on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is also an option to find interns. The next two are online platform. I mean, LinkedIn is too, but the next two are dedicated online platforms to hiring, to recruitment. So first we have Indeed. Okay, Indeed we know is for job posting, but also people are allowed to leave company reviews. You can, the interns that you are looking for, or the employees or whoever, can upload their resumes. And there's also a place to look for salary information in case you need to have a better understanding of what you're budgeting for. And then finally is Upwork. I know everybody's heard of Fiverr, we bring that up a lot, but sometimes Fiverr can fall short. Upwork is more expensive, I think. It's something you should budget for, but you get, my personal opinion, you get better talent.
Can everybody hear me through Tony's sound? Can you all hear me?
I don't think so.
Can y'all hear me now? Yes, no, I need to know. Okay, perfect. I wanted to jump in again just to say one thing about Indeed. You know, Tony talked about the different types of people you can hire. If you are hiring an intern specifically, Indeed, because there is a cost for Indeed and it's not cheap for most cases when you're hiring people. But if you're hiring an intern and you need to put the word intern in the title on Indeed, you can promote your open option at no cost for something like 30 days or something like that on Indeed. But again, you have to put the word intern typically in the job description so Indeed approves it at no cost. I just wanted to share that tidbit for you because Indeed is, again, it's not cheap.
Yes, you're good. Okay, so no matter who you hire, intern, employee, independent contractor, or marketing firm, whoever you talk to at their marketing firm, I think you should ask some of these questions that hit on some of these areas. Okay, so number one is culture and values. All right, you should ask them what are their core values. If you're talking to a marketing firm, what's their business values? Okay, reason we're asking this is to see if we can collaborate, to see if we are cohesive together. What we don't need is extra work. Okay, we're hiring these people to take the work off our plate. So we want to make sure that they are a good fit and we don't have to repeat this process again. Okay, so what are your core values? And then ask yourself once they answer that question, are they a good culture fit? Perfect example I love is Magley. Magley is very flexible. She's very, I don't know what's the word. She's flexible. Okay. You'd be like, Mag, I need to put a meeting on your calendar. Like, when are you available? She said, I can meet you today at 7 p.m. You know what I'm saying? She is available when necessary. She's willing to work hard, but overall flexibility. She has no problem meeting on a Sunday, for example. That's the kind of culture and that's the kind of feeling. Does that work for your business? Okay, are you something that is very professional? I'm only available from 9 to 5. It might not work, you know? Informed on your industry. So you should ask them what they know about your specific industry. Yes, marketing skills are universal when it comes to businesses, but how much expertise do they have marketing in your industry? Is that something you're willing to take a risk on if they have none? Okay. Next would be expectations. What are your expectations for this position? So that's what you're asking them. What are you expecting? If I hire you, if I give you the job, if I decide to let you market for me, talking about a marketing firm, what are your expectations for me? Okay. And also you should let them know your expectations of them. Okay. Next slide. So, oh, okay. So performance metrics, always, okay, we talked about this when it comes to your marketing budget. That's something you do internally, but also performance metrics for the people that you're hiring, because that's, again, you're spending money on them. What are they doing? And so you need to also remember what you hired them for, and then possibly before you hire them, how are you going to measure their growth? Okay, how are you going to measure the growth that they are providing? And here's a list of some of the things. Certain areas is bullet pointed, and then in the actual graph are specific things such as like website retention rate. Okay, that's something you can measure. Email opening rate, if that's what you give them, that's something you can measure, so on and so forth. And then I think that is it. Hey, right on time. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I will say, Nikita did have a question, Tony, but she had to run.
Okay.
But she did leave me her phone number to call so we could talk about her questions.
Okay.
And there is a question. It's not specific to marketing, but I think it's about when you were talking about hiring. Someone wanted to know what's the pay range for typical personal assistants. So I don't know if you have that information available.
I don't have the personal assistance pay raise. And then also I would question, is that what you need? Is that what you mean? Okay, are you looking for a marketing assistant? Are you looking for an executive assistant for your business? Are you looking for a personal assistant for your life?
And, just to respond to that, but
no, I did, but because I thought you were gonna come on. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Gail, can you hear Magali?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
What I was going to say is, I think Tony shared about, Indeed and LinkedIn and all those spaces having kind of ranges and pay scales and et cetera. You can probably find it you definitely can find it on platforms for that role, if that's what you're doing. So today we're focused on marketing, but you can probably find the same. And I know we're right at time. And
thank you.
Information. But you all, please feel free to reach out. Tony or Tasha can drop our email address in the chat for you. You will receive this and all the information from this series in your email, hopefully by Friday. You'll also receive the recordings, which you see on the screen now. The topic for next month, starting next Wednesday. We'll be talking about proven public relations for profits for your business. Public relations is one of those things that fail as a small business, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to provide some resources, and we're really excited about it. Please register and join us. And we look forward to seeing you next week. If you have any questions, feel free to stick around. We have about 5 minutes left to do something else, but don't have any more questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. And every week, definitely, if I told you we'll get you added to the newsletter, we will. And look forward to seeing you same place, same time next week.
Absolutely. Thank you. If anybody needs some help, please don't hesitate to reach out.
All right.